Good morning, everyone. This is Mark Caden, CEO of ALU Gamma. We're going to just give it a minute for folks to load. So just hang in there with us for another 30 seconds, and we'll get started with our discussion with the president of the American College, George Nichols. So 30 seconds, please. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy post Monday after Mother's Day. Hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day, and mothers around the world were celebrated in your house and via Zoom and everywhere else. My name is Mark Caden, CEO of ALU Gamma, and I'm particularly pleased today to be joined by a good friend and industry thought leader, George Nichols. Many of you know George has spent more than 2 decades in and around the profession and in and around the industry. George is the 10th president of the American College, and so we are delighted to hear from him on what he's doing at the American College and innovating. We're going to have a good discussion about that. But prior to that, George spent 17 years with New York Life, was also the insurance commissioner of Kentucky, and was also the president of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners in those latter two roles. He was the first African-American insurance commissioner of Kentucky and president of the NAIC. So we're delighted to have George join our Thought Leader series, and we're going to have a robust discussion on three different topics today. Number one, we want to talk about specifically what the American College is doing to help advance the profession. You know, as we've talked about on a number of these calls, a central tenet of ALU Gamma is to be a unifying force within the profession and within the industry. And so as we look around the other industry organizations, you know, the opportunity to partner with the American College is certainly at the forefront of our mind. And we want to talk and share with you what George is doing with his colleagues at the American College to innovate, to prepare the college to help advance the profession. What we thought we would do secondly is really dive into some specific markets. You know, we know the American College is the accredited educational institution for the profession. And we want to hear from George about what he's seeing and what they're working on within a number of very specific markets. And then third, perhaps the most interesting for many of us, is really looking at how we can partner to elevate the profession. And, you know, the American College, not just in technology, but in, you know, being a thought leader around public policy, continuing to provide practical education that advances the profession. Those are all necessary. But we also want to look around the corner and say, what are the things that we can do together? And what is the American College doing that will help us elevate this profession so we close the gap between the nobility of the work that you do and how it's perceived by the general public. So with that, George, thank you for being here. And we are going to take questions. So enter the chat box, enter the Q&A. We will take your questions as we go. George, how was Mother's Day? Did your 3 children treat their mother well? How'd it go?
Well, first of all, Mark, thanks for having me. Good morning to everyone. I appreciate always partnering with you and excited about the things that you also have going on. Mother's Day was wonderful. It was amazing that she said it was the best Mother's Day she ever had, and everything that we ordered from Amazon did not come in. We ordered dinner from Capital Grill, and she said that was the best. So obviously I've not been that smart. I could have been doing that over the last 30 plus years, and I would have probably been husband of the year. But anyway, it worked yesterday.
Well, good. I'm glad that you and your family are both are safe, and glad to have you here. So, George, maybe we can just sort of set the top line to start. You know, obviously, you're doing a lot of innovating at the American College and really looking at technology, looking at, you know, the people within various departments. maybe you can just set the frame at a high level and sort of where you found the American College and what are some of the priorities from an innovation agenda that you are doing to bring the American College to where where you feel like it needs to be today.
Yes, Mark, I think that's a great question, and thank you for allowing me to set it up. If you think about the American College, we started out as a correspondence college years ago. We'd send the exam and all the material and stuff through the mail. You take it, you send it back, we grade it, and then you went about your merry way. Then we shifted and we went online, which was an innovative thing years ago for the college to do, to go online and say, now instead of mailing it, we're going to do all of that online. But basically it was, we send you the book, we send you the exams for you to take, and you send it back, and then we grade it, and that was about it. There really wasn't a lot of interaction when it came to professional designations. What we have shifted to is, I think it's great again that we were innovative to go online, but how do we become a truly e-learning institution? And I say one of the best, and not just we're out there like everyone else. I really wanted us to be one of the outstanding centers of excellence around e-learning. So it is a three-part step. The first one is technology, as you mentioned. It was fortuitous that last year we made a decision to move to a new learning management system, and it's called Brightspace by D2L. What it does is it allows us to offer our content in a student-friendly mobile environment that everyone, given the complicated lives that we live, everyone wants to work on mobile devices. We weren't able to do that prior to now. We just so happened to launch that program in April of this year. Even in the midst of the pandemic, everything went very smoothly. So the technology is great. Now this new environment that's friendly for the student, it's mobile, it can be customized. But one of the exciting things about it is as we talk about big data, on the back end of this thing, it has already built in data analytics that allow us actually to determine, based on the system, when a student may be having trouble, so we can intercede at that point in time and help them along. What are the issues that they're dealing with? If we see that across the spectrum of all students, we can actually put new videos or webinars out there to help the student get through the process. That's the first thing. Very, very exciting. The second piece is that now that we're moving away from just sending you stuff, and then you do all your work at home and send it back to us, we actually want to engage with students. We want to take this opportunity to help them work through the process as they customize it for themselves. And so we have restructured the college around this whole student experience and looking at every touch point that a student has from the time they call in or they're on the website all the way through to graduate or get their designation, and then for them to be an alumni. And when you think about connecting all of that together and making sure that every piece is consistent and that every experience that you have at the American College is the same, that's really important. The third thing is we're not moving away. We're actually doubling down on the things that have made us so great over the last 93 years. It's really financial planning and then the things that build off of financial planning. We're excited about a CHFC CFP new initiative that will be launched in June that actually gives people an opportunity to really dig into the competencies necessary around financial planning. So we have that. And then we'll build on top of that, trying to make sure that our educational content is keeping up with what's happening in the marketplace. For example, when you think about us coming out of this, there's a great need for the small business advice. How do we help financial advisors get really good knowledge and education so they can use that and be more actionable with their clients? So it's that. We are going to have to deal with student loans. How do we help the student or the parent as they are pre or post going through that process? That is important. And then again, that basics around financial planning, because it's changing as you have robo-advisors and all the other technologies. We want to pull all that together so that we are right lockstep with financial advisors about what's happening in the marketplace today.
Well, certainly no shortage of things to do, and we've already gotten a number of questions, so thank you for entering those questions in. We're going to come back to specifically, what are you doing in small business in terms of curriculum that people can look to, or specifically how are you attacking the student loan education so that, we're positioning the profession to be in a better position to help advise parents and students alike. But George, I wonder from a real practical standpoint, as we think about this learning environment that we now find ourselves in, how are you finding students engaging with, taking exams or, getting CE as you think about, they're obviously not showing up to classrooms anymore. You mentioned sort of the investments in technology, but how are you handling some of these practical day-to-day issues to just make sure that, again, whether it's proctoring an exam or getting CE, how are you executing against that?
Sure, good question. Well, as soon as the pandemic started and we realized that a lot of places are going to be shut down, we started immediately working with Pearson VUE, who is our partner for our examinations. And actually, it's technology. Pearson VUE has been working very closely with us. And the first thing we did was we said anybody that had exams in March, April, May, we're going to move those to September. So we wanted them to, don't worry about it. We're going to move that. We recognize we're in a different environment. But we also decided, let's go work with Pearson VUE and see if there's a way that we can actually do a virtual online examination that's proctored by them. And they have the technology. We actually had been on a system that was more advanced than what most states are doing. And so we have now been able to launch an online examination process through Pearson VUE where people can start taking their tests. We had one of our testing programs come on the end of April. We should have 3 or 4 more that will come on by the end of May. But we feel like that coming into June, almost all of our examinations that people would have to take, they will actually be able to take those virtually online through Pearson VUE. And you got to get in line for that because we can't do it in the bulk that we used to do it when everybody comes into a room. But being able to have that solution. And to me, that's exactly what we should be doing. If we're saying that technology and online and this advancement of what we're doing in terms of helping people be educated from where they're at, this is a logical step. So that's the first thing I think that was exciting us. We actually want to think about, is that something that we can incorporate in as we go forward in the future? Mark, it's really going to be interesting what happens after this is over. None of us thought that we'd be having conversations through Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all that other stuff. But I think a lot of people are saying like, oh, you mean I don't have to go all the time? That maybe I can do this a little different. So we're actually talking with Pearson VUE and others and saying, okay, if state governments were able to move in that direction, not all of them will, but if they were able to move in that direction, how would we assist in that process? And for us, we would like to be able to offer all of our stuff online to make it more convenient for the very, very busy financial advisors that we provide education and knowledge to. So I think that is one of the big things that we're doing in terms of technology and trying to help people meet these challenging needs right now where they can't get out of the house. And we'd love to see that, again, move on to the state agencies, because I think it would really be helpful for firms and for advisors if we could do more stuff online so they could be closer to the markets that they're working in and still be able to get their license, be able to get their educational needs met so that they can be a better advisor for their clients.
Well, there's no question that's a huge step in the right direction. And we had on this Thought Leader series, we had Susan Neely, who I know George very, very well at the ACLI. And what we were talking about with Susan is the tremendous advancements that have been made in temporary state licensing and the ability for online notaries. And there's been a number of gains that have been made through the regulatory process that when you couple the innovation, particularly from an accredited educational institution that's designed to provide the profession with the education they need to serve the greater consuming public with an effective advocacy, there's no reason that we can't continue to move forward
Yes.
through the work that you're doing, the work we're from an advocacy standpoint doing with the ACLI. And, and as we think about putting the profession at the center of everything we do, rather than any individual organization at the center of everything
Right.
we do, what's exciting to me is we've got so many new leaders at all of the right spots
Right.
that don't think about it in terms of, hey, how can I advance the cause of the American College or ACLI or ALU Gamma or NAFA or NALBA or anybody else? I think more and more of us are thinking about how we can advance the cause of the profession and
Right.
how can the profession work more effectively with companies so that together we can serve more people and provide more financial security. And that's, having been around like you for a number of years, that's certainly very exciting for me as a leader in a vertical that's critically important. So, George, I wonder, sort of picking up on that line, we got one question about the general public I'm going to come to next. But as you think about, before we dive into specific areas of curriculum, I wonder if you can talk as a general matter how where you're making adjustments and evolving the curriculum at the American College to the modern day advisor.
Sure. Let me first step back on your comment about the new leadership across our industry. And, obviously you're part of that, myself, Susan Neely, David Levison over at LL Global. It really is a recognition of how do we leverage all of our skill sets that differ to some extent, but how do we leverage it so that we do advance our industry? And I commend you. I know you've been reaching out not only to me, but to everyone else, bringing us all together, and even a recognition of how do we work together, but also, let me not get in another lane that I really shouldn't be. And so I do commend all of the new leadership that's been around this. That is very exciting that we're all working together, and it is for a common good for the industry. And the fact is, as the industry succeeds, so do we. And that's really what it is. It's all about the industry, and then we will get the benefits of that. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. The second thing I would say is the American College of Financial Services is not getting into the advocacy space. However, I do want to see the college and the thought leaders that we have involved in the public policy debates. And when I think about the CARES Act that came through and the impact it's having on small businesses and things of that nature, what we're talking about related to retirement, I think it's important. We've got, Wade Pfau and Michael Finkel, we've really got some really bright minds that are involved in that, looking at research, looking at thought leadership, very engaged in the marketplace to make sure that this is like stuff that you can get that's truly actionable. I'd like to see the college take more of a role as a subject matter expert in the public policy debate. We're not picking sides, but because we do have that knowledge, we do have that expertise, we should be a part of the discussion, because we really have looked at this and tried to be agnostic about one thing or another, but just saying these are the right things. And I think as we position ourselves as a public policy expert, then we can talk about, if you don't have a pension or you don't have Social Security, what's the best way to get guaranteed income? Well, it's an annuity, it's life insurance. And so I think those are the things that we can do down the road. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to leverage and work through the relationships that you all have established across for a number of years in order for us to do that. But again, purely as just an expert. So now to this curriculum thing. The college has done an outstanding job. I think when you think about, if you want to do holistic planning, okay, that's CHFC or it's CFP. And that's something you can get through the college. The college has also done a tremendous job of actually focusing on the specialties. That is, okay, now I have my financial planning down. I'm really good at that. But what are the things that my clients really need? Well, for us, we know they need retirement. You look at the number of baby boomers retiring. So we know that retirement's a very important place, and we've invested a lot in our retirement center to make sure, again, that Wade Pfau and Mike Finkes of the world are involved in that process. We are seeing a lot of folks that are really now wanting to build legacy. We have we have a designation for philanthropy. And what we have found is that every client we're working with is saying, like, you know what, I'm not going to be here forever. How can I make a difference in my community? How can I make a difference, whether it's a family foundation or a trust? And now being able to bring that philanthropic approach to help them and their offspring to build that legacy for their family. Very, very exciting. Another thing that we're seeing, and it's amazing that the college put these things in place well before I was there, but how we're able to leverage them. We have a designation for special needs. So think about what's happening today. Think about so much of the pandemic we're dealing with. I know that we think about the economic implications, the financial implications. This is a healthcare issue. It is a healthcare issue. And until we're able to deal with that, we're going to have a hard time dealing with the financial and the economic aspects of it. Well, there are going to be people who will be fine, but we're recognizing that special needs is not just a child anymore. Special needs is Alzheimer's, it's my sister, it's my father. And so trying to be able to bring that component to a financial advisor so they can help their clients in that regard, another outstanding thing. The last I'd mention is wealth management. Obviously, we found a lot of young people are coming in our business and they're saying, like, I don't want to just be a life insurance agent. I want to be able to move into wealth management. But for us, it's how do we help you move into wealth management, but still understand the importance of life insurance as a part of the overall portfolio that you're looking at? And how do you bring that, whether it's a team concept that you're working with a particular client or just something that you're bringing to the table? So we're really trying to look at what's happening, dig a little deeper in, and try to make sure that, again, always, I think the college is at the intersection of academic standards and truly applied knowledge. And I say to our faculty all the time, whatever we do, you have to be able to use it and apply it for the benefit of your clients. And so that's just a little overview in terms of the things, and I'd be more than happy to get into more detail.
Well, I think we absolutely need to get into more detail and around the public policy piece and where we can take that discussion. And before we go in sort of, what are the resources, retirement, and business owners, et cetera, I do want to take one question we've got here from an audience member. We talk a lot about educating the profession, and, American College does a great job with that. Companies have resources, but the question here is, does the American College anticipate providing online courses for the general public to build its brand and expand their talents and offerings beyond the profession itself?
Excellent question. And the answer is yes, over time. I believe that we have to do better at what we deliver to advisors first, but it is our intent to move to offer more stuff and educational content, even maybe a possible certificate for consumers. And let me give you probably the best example of where I say that we're beginning to sort of dabble our toe into this. Everybody always says to me, like, the American College would be great at doing something related to financial literacy. And I think we would too. And the fact that we have these relationships with a huge alumni group across the country, that we could create content, offer it to our advisors, and then they could take it to their clients. But I also think we can go direct. So we already have a couple of faculty members that are writing pieces for various financial magazines and consumer pieces that are actually designed specific for the consumer. And I'll tell you, I actually believe that years ago, we ran the American College like a life insurance company that was a mutual. We said that the only person that could talk to the client or the consumer was the agent or the advisor. And we whatever we do has to go through them. Well, the fact is, we believe that if we can figure out the content and simplify it down for consumers, that the smarter your client is, the easier your job is. And so we're moving in the financial literacy space. We believe that in our special needs space, because we'll be working with a lot of parents who are telling us about what it is I need from an advisor, we're going to be able to make those connections. We think in philanthropy, we think how do we help the next generation understand what the current generation wants to do in legacy. So we are trying to take natural steps in the consumer space. And then once we are able to do that and do it well, then I think you'll be able to see us take a much more broader approach about going direct to consumers with the information that we have, the knowledge that we have, and then offering them things that they actually could take advantage of themselves so that they can work better even with their financial advisor. So that is coming.
Well, and I think about that, it's really, really smart to kind of take a phased approach. And as I think about, some of the policy debates back in your previous job that you and I were in the middle of for the last, a couple decades, the reality is we have to engage the American people in the
Yes.
In the fight for their financial security. Too often, as a profession, as an industry, we enter into these debates and discussions balkanized. We're
Right.
too divided, either between distribution and carriers, between carriers. We've got to be more unified in that approach. But we also, ultimately, this is not about a life insurance carrier or an advisor or a product. This is about the outcomes that we deliver for people. And we need to have those people who receive the outcome, receive the guarantees, to be able to engage directly on their behalf. So I think it's really, really smart. It dovetails pretty closely to how we're thinking about advocacy in particular. First, we've got to better organize the 345,000 advisors, 90% of which are members of no advocacy organization. We simply don't have anyone who is capturing the hearts and minds of advisors across the distribution segments. So we've got to better bring them in, but then we have to then go to the next step and leverage the 90 plus million American families and engage them directly as well. I think we do both of those, both from an education standpoint and an advocacy standpoint. Then we should be really debating what are the kinds of policies that we need to do more of that, because again, American people need more of what we're providing. So a really, really important topic. Before we transition to retirement, small business, and other markets, any last comments on that, George?
Yeah, I want to add to what you just said, because first of all, I totally agree. I think you made all the right point. Matter of fact, I'm thinking I'm just hiring you to be a spokesperson for the American College. There's another piece of this that I think is really important. So as I talk about technology and I talk about how we want to do the student experience, let's talk about how people learn, because that's something we've spent a lot of time on over the last year, of trying to get a better sense of how people learn. And now, again, my typical student is a financial advisor, so they're busy. And you can do self-study, but one of the things that research has shown is that people are getting to the point where I like it in small bites. Now, I'll take more small bites depending on how much time I have, but people are moving to a modular format. And what you'll see for the American colleges, so think about all of our professional designations. What we did was, just like everyone else, we bundled them together and offered you one price and said, if you buy it together, buy the whole thing. And that was great marketing, okay? But the reality is that for some coming into the business, for some who are already in the business, the college always was a designation school. Well, what I want us to be viewed as a financial knowledge institution, an accredited financial knowledge institution. So what we're doing is I'm asking them to unpack every one of our designations and put them in a modular format, okay? Then repackage them back so that you can still get your designation. But what we're finding is that I am a life insurance agent, and I now want to move into estate planning, but I don't necessarily want to go get a COU or CHFC, but there are things that I want to take that the college has to offer. And so we believe by creating it in modular format, in micro learning bites, that people can come and get the information that they need. Our objective is you have a great experience doing that. You're going to keep coming back for the knowledge that you want. Because again, if you think of us as a knowledge place and not as a designation place, that is going to be important. But in order to do that, we put in this modular format, but it also does something else, which has been, again, back to the student thing. Maybe you don't want a designation, but there's something you're building about your practice, then you should be able to customize what we offer based on what your needs are, as opposed to what we're dictating to you, saying this is the way it has to be. And so I think that as we build this modular, it also ties back. I can take any micro learning piece of that, any modular piece of that, simplify it. I can take it to consumers. I also can, again, allow the advisor to customize. But one of the other things that we're excited about is actually now going into companies, into the companies themselves, offering ourselves as a partner, a lifelong learning partner within the company. One, looking at, can we give you credit for what you already do for all your producers or agents? And then saying, okay, how do we take the modular pieces we have and put it together where they can get designations, or they can get the type of learning or knowledge base that companies want them to go into, but also the practices in which they choose. So I'm pretty excited that, you know, with the technology, with the innovation, we are really thinking about how to do, and it's back to this e-learning institution. I will tell you that there will be more competition at the end of this pandemic. And our job is to make sure that we're ready for that competition. But even when we deal with that, there's no one that offers a more comprehensive suite of financial knowledge that's actionable, that you can truly use than the American College of Financial Services.
Well, that's exciting too. And I think that's where a lot of our conversations have come, we've had so far. As ALU Gamma thinks about our innovation trajectory and changing the nature of the membership model and looking at between the producer groups and the career agency systems and the brokerage market, and how to lower the barriers to entry, and then what are the products and services that we provide in addition to the advocacy function. You know, one of the exciting things is the notion of, you know, breaking these pieces off, and can we create a platform for a study group with a collection of founding firms? Can we do agency specific where they may join because the managing partner or general agent says, we need everyone to participate in this advocacy function because of the profession, and ALU Gamma is the leading advocate for the entirety of the profession, but they will then stay because we will provide a community that's connected with education. And as we think about it, it's not just, you know, the breakout sessions that we would do traditionally at the annual meeting. How can we leverage the unique resources at the American College so that we're not duplicating efforts and being inefficient, and we can take the whole thing and raise it up? So I think that's the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And as we sort of break it down, we dive in, we actually have a question that I'm going to turn to now from the audience. It's really about what are the opportunities in the specific segments of the markets that people are conducting business in. And we have a question from one of our audience members. When will you be doing something on business owner training? I've not found much, if anything, in this area. So maybe we can start with kind of business owner training, George, sure, and go into the various markets.
Sure. So first of all, we've been offering a 4-part series on dealing with financial planning in the COVID-19 era. And we had our first one a couple of weeks ago. We've got another one coming up this Thursday that's focused on what I would call sort of the small business space. We'll have Jeff Levine and Robert Keebler, two of probably the most prominent CPAs, that'll be talking about financial planning and some of the issues related to the small business market. We hope people will come to our just go to the American College site. You can go and link to that and then join in for that. But what we started with is how do we get the experts like a Jeff Levine and a Robert Keebler who work with business owners, whether it be on the estate planning side of it or general financial planning side of it. We try to bring those type of experts in and then have Michael Finkel will moderate that. That's the first sort of step for us. And what we've said is now we want to go into our content. We want to look across CLU, we want to look at CHFC, and all of the pieces that we have that relate to how you would advise a business owner, okay? And one overlaid in this environment, but truly what are the right things for business owners? And then how would we take those pieces, again, back to the value of being modular, put them together and then make an offering. And our goal is that we would like to be able between end of June and July, have something that we can present to the marketplace that you can come in and get some quick knowledge and information that is actionable. Again, everything is applied around the business, small business arena that you can get. Now, this is not some designation, but it's really the content. And then we'll try to build it out from there. But we're starting with, we recognize there's going to be a lot of small businesses that are going to go under. There's going to be a lot that are going to teeter on going under. There'll be some that are ready to launch. And then how do you go in and help assess that for the business owner, put together the right plan, understand how to make connections to AALU, and you all had your program about how the PPP program worked. How do you put all those pieces together so that you have the right solutions for business owners? So that's what we're in the process of doing. And so the first one was, let's have this webinar that we'll have on Thursday to start having these discussions, just so we're presenting things that we see that are happening today. But over time between now and June and July, let's pull all of it together. We always talk to advisors. What are the things that we should be piecing together and say, here's an offering for you in the small business space. We believe that's necessary. We believe that retirement is another area that's necessary. Even though the government's still trying to figure out what they're going to do with student loans, we think that's another area. And so I've asked the faculty and our instructional design experts, look across our offerings, pull together what you think's most relevant today, and let's package that together so that we can make an offering to the marketplace, to advisors in the June, July timeframe of something they can come get information and then be able to go out and apply that with their clients.
Well, it's exciting stuff. I mean, it's tragic in many ways that, the economic challenges that small businesses are facing, but, the value of advice, the value of financial security and the products and advice that the profession provides is more needed now than ever before. And if you think about it, and we'll have the same conversation on retirement, the idea of influencing, unpacking, understanding, providing resources for the profession around the policies coming out of Washington and states around the country that impact small businesses, and then coupling that with the educational resources and plan design, there's a really nice partnership that we can provide, and we'll continue to push towards that. In similar way, George, there's probably no area where the American College has made more strides, you've mentioned it a couple of times, than in and around retirement. I know the number of people who quote Wade Pfau to me today, it seems like it exponentially grows, and work around, sequence of returns and the idea of how, life insurance and annuities and guaranteed and the kind of assets invested in 401ks, if somebody does that, they are guaranteed to retire securely. Unfortunately, not enough people are doing it. So right. Maybe you can talk about kind of what you're doing in that space, because I know it's received a number of very high marks.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking that. Yeah. I will give them credit. The retirement center, the New York Life retirement center of excellence at the college has just been a huge success. And I will give credit to Wade Pfau and Michael Finca, David Littell, a former faculty member that we had that still does some work with us. These are all the folks that built this, that helped create the RICP professional designation around retirement that I think is second to none. It's the best retirement thing out there. But what we're trying to do and what the team is doing is, how do we drive that down more and more, where we are actually up in the advisor. David Littell's role was actually, he does consumer pieces, and that is trying to take some of this really sophisticated stuff that we do for advisors and push it down so that consumers know the questions to ask or the things that the advisor may bring to them, a little bit more understanding around how retirement affects them. And so that was one piece of it. The second piece is that we've asked Wade and Michael and the team, we really do want to get them out more than, we had our first webinar on retirement that was conducted by Michael. And from that, I mean, the exposure we got with Wall Street Journal, Kiplinger, Barron's, and all the financial news media we're picking up. That's what we're trying to do, is really pushing more of our thought leadership around that and to get more people engaged. Steve Parrish is the co-lead for the Retirement Center. Steve does a sort of a podcast, and I will tell you that he's now competing with Wade about how many people want to hear what Steve Parrish has to say. So I think that really is trying to let people know the expertise that's out there, and looking at different avenues that we traditionally have not done about promoting really what's going on at the college. That is also a reason why we said we wanted to get into this public policy issue, is because these are really, really smart people. They've got a lot of knowledge around this that I think is very, very helpful. And again, this is not to push one product or service over anything else. It is, let us help you figure out the things that are most important to the average American when it comes to retirement. And so I think that, and this overlay of us really trying to think about how does it connect with the average American? How does it connect with consumers? I think will be very valuable for the advisors who come and learn from our experts and be a part of the educational experience at the college.
Well, and that there's no doubt, we all have to work together on that, and you get some tremendous resources. And as we sort of turn the corner into the last subject about how we're going to work together to elevate the profession, that's a pretty good way of sort of wrapping this discussion. We've gotten a number of questions, and for those that we can't get to, we'll certainly, as we've done with our thought leader series with members of Congress and other industry thought leaders, George, we'll send you all of the questions so you have the benefit of them, and we can work together to address them. But as we think about where we are, one of the things that perhaps is most exciting to me is this notion of, and it's come up a number of times, about the American college being a thought leader. So if we look at where we are from a society today, the reality is the American people simply don't have enough money saved for crises. They simply don't have enough money prepared for retirement. The life insurance ownership as a percentage of the population is at historic lows. And the net result of all of that is that when we get into a crisis, and now we are in the middle of the third crisis, or hopefully in the middle, hopefully near the end, but we're in the middle of the third economic crisis that we've seen in 20 years. 9/11 created an economic collapse and a subsequent recession. The 2008 collapse created a massive recession, and the one that we're in now hopefully will be the quickest recovery, but the economic impact is extraordinary. And the commonality among all of those is that the American people simply don't have any money, sufficient amount of money saved, and they are not financially secure. So as we think about how these institutions, and whether it's LIMRA or the ACLI or ALU, Gamma, or the American College, how we're going to attack this, I wonder if you can provide some of your perspective about what's needed and what role the American college will play to make sure that when we get to the next economic collapse, hopefully not anytime soon, but it's bound to be, the next 5, 10, 15 years, how can we work together as institutions representing the industry to make sure that the American people are better prepared for the next crisis?
Sure, great question. So the first thing is I'll start with back to your comment of the new leadership. We really do have to break down the barriers and the silos that have existed across trade associations, the college, and others about what's best for the life insurance industry. We really have to stay focused on that. So that's an important component. I also believe that if everybody brings their best game, their A game, this is what I'm really good at, and puts that together, and then we're working together and saying, okay, where do we need knowledge and information and educational content? Where do we need advocacy? Where do we need thought leadership? Where do we pull all this together and we're doing something that's direct to the public or otherwise, or the regulators? I think that we really do have to start talking more about what are the issues in front of us. The fact is, right now, the perfect thing for all of us in this space is retirement and small business. So how do we take the good things that we do, your relationships, your advocacy on Capitol Hill, our thought leadership, our contact and relationship with advisors that are even beyond life insurance, but are just as concerned about retirement and small business. How do we bring all of that together? So I think that's the two things. And I think that, you doing this and inviting me and inviting Susan and others is a part of that process. But after the show, we've got to be able to sit down and talk about how do we deliver these things. And I also think that as you are looking at the merger between AOU and GAMA, the same as me saying we've got to invest in technology, we have to be the best of ourselves. And so you've got to be stronger. And I've always said that when I was at New York Life, if I had to go into battle, AOU was going with me. And so that's the respect that people have around what you will do advocacy. Well, the thing is, we want you to be even stronger. So ACLI under Susan is getting stronger. It has to be stronger. AOU GAMA has to be stronger under you and Bonnie. The American College has to be stronger under George. LL Global has to be stronger under David Levinson. And then if we're bringing our best self and we're working together and we identify what are the things that we need to do, then I think we're going to make a difference and we're going to advance the market. There's one other thing that I think is important, and I know this is something that we've not talked about, but I know it's important to you, and I know something you've done is, we also need to think about what's happening in the future. The advisor in the future is going to look different than the advisor today. And part of the challenge that in this, we don't have money or we don't have the right jobs and all the things that people are dealing with is that when we think of women, when we think of African Americans, when we think of Latino X, when we think of Asians and others, we need to start bringing them in because one, they're going to be representative of those families and those communities that we talked about that don't have the things that they need in preparation for retirement. And I think we're going to have to do a better job at preparing the next generation within those communities to be the advisors of the future. And we should be getting them now to help them so they can help us do exactly what you said. So it's be our best self, bring our best self in a coordinated fashion together around the important issues for this sector and this industry. And then recognizing that we're going to have to bring in and invite and make feel welcome the new generation of advisors, because this is a long-term thing. It is a generational thing. And as you said, we've already been through 3 crises. There will be another. And so why don't we bring them in now so we can help them be better prepared to help out families across the country in the future?
Well, and there's no doubt. And if we think about it too, the reality, we can't talk about financial security unless we're talking about financial security for all. We have to talk about financial security for everyone. And so as you think about one of the things, and we've got to be honest with ourselves as it relates to, the median income is $44,000. And it's great to talk about permanent life insurance products, but the challenge is those permanent life insurance products for a family of four making $44,000 is challenging. And so how do we harness the collective intellect and think about, okay, so the federal government just spent $2-3 trillion to send out money to provide bridge loans for small businesses to basically help get us through this storm. In the last crisis, again, cash for clunkers, direct stimulus payments, and the first after 9/11, same thing. So what are the policies and the ideas and the product innovations that we can apply that leverages the strengths of the existing system, the existing products, but also provides an efficient vehicle that is accessible for more people across the economic spectrum? Because again, we believe strongly in permanent and sustainable estate tax reform that enables the profession to help their clients plan with certainty, but that's a segment of the population that's not the population. So that's how we're thinking about it, and thinking in non-traditional ways about things like agent licensing, and is the academic rigor that is required in the entrance exam, is that sufficient for the nobility of the cause and the purpose of providing financial security for all? So, George, we'll let you have the last word as we think about what we're going to do to elevate the profession. But that's sort of how we're thinking about it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think you're asking and raising all the right issues. If you think about Dr. Solomon Huebner, 1927, I'm going to start a college called American College, and the purpose was to make the insurance agent a professional, that it is a profession. And the key thing around that was ethics, the integrity of the agent. It's interesting that in 1927, Dr. Huebner said that you should put the interests of your client before your own. Now think about 1927, and he was 93 years ahead of the best interest standard. Well, I think that what I look at in the licensing and the process we go through right now for advisors, I don't think it's rigorous enough. I don't think we're getting down. I think sometimes we're so focused on a specific knowledge that can you pass the test, can you answer these questions, as opposed to the competency required in that. I don't think we're ever really testing to make sure you really know what it is you're doing, as opposed to you just go do it. I also don't think that we put enough around the ethics component. One of the things is we are very close to announcing a new leader for our ethics center at the college. And the thing that we've been talking to the candidates about is the culture of ethics. Because so often what we're thinking about is, what do you do individually? But it's really the culture of your office, the people that you work with, the people that you associate with. It's a culture. And do you create an ethical culture? And how do we bring that to bear in terms of how we deal with our clients? I think that's going to be really important. And that's another one of those public policy debates that, for our perspective, we'd actually like to engage more on talking about what do we think are the pieces that are going to help people have more confidence, more trust, more belief in the integrity of our profession. And what can the college offer in terms of knowledge, applied knowledge, that they can use to make the average American feel a whole lot more confident and trusting in what we do. That's our goal.
Well, George, I've enjoyed this conversation like I enjoy all of our conversations through the years, and appreciate the opportunity to work with you and the American College as we work together to elevate and enhance this noble profession. So on behalf of everyone at ALU Gamma, thank you for the time, energy, and wisdom, and we look forward to working with you in the days, weeks, months ahead. Thanks, George.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.